You are eating cooked food right now. Or you will be, soon. And here's what nobody tells you about that. Every single human on this planet, for the last 100,000 years, has been born already addicted to something. Something that rewired our brains, sculpted our faces, and made us fundamentally unrecognizable from what we once were. That thing is heat. But before that, before fire, before the first human hand ever held a flame, what were we? The world before the flame. Imagine standing in a forest. Not a modern forest. Not a forest with trails and signs and a parking lot nearby. An ancient forest. East Africa. Roughly 1.8 million years ago. The air smells like rain and rot, and something alive that you can't name. You are hungry. Not I skipped lunch hungry. Not I'll grab something later hungry. The kind of hungry that is your entire life. Every waking moment, a negotiation with starvation. And here's the first thing that should disturb you. You have no fire. No one does. Not yet. That technology is so far in the future it might as well be magic. Your world is entirely raw. Every calorie you consume has never been touched by heat. So you reach out, and you eat whatever is in front of you. But what is in front of you? This is the question that paleoanthropologists have been quietly obsessing over for decades. Because the answer doesn't just tell us about diet. It tells us about who we were, what kind of animal we actually are, underneath everything we've built on top of ourselves. The teeth don't lie. Here's something that should make you uncomfortable. Look at your own teeth. You have flat molars, designed for grinding. You have small canines, almost vestigial, almost decorative. You have an incredibly small mouth compared to your skull. And your jaw, weak, embarrassingly weak by primate standards. A chimpanzee, our closest living relative, has a bite force roughly twice that of a modern human. Their jaw muscles wrap around their skulls like a vice. Ours are, almost delicate. Why? Because something changed. Something fundamentally altered the trajectory of our mouths, our skulls, our brains. And it all traces back to one single technological leap that happened between 400,000 and 1.8 million years ago, depending on which fossil you believe. That leap was fire. But before fire, before any of that, our ancestors had different teeth. Larger, stronger, more brutally designed for the raw, resistant, chewy, fibrous reality of uncooked food. And what they were eating with those teeth is strange. A raw world. The honest answer, the one most people aren't prepared for, is that pre-fire humans ate like no animal you've ever watched at a zoo. They were not apex predators. Not even close. Early Homo and our Australopith ancestors were somewhere in the messy, complicated middle of the food chain, opportunistic, desperate, ingenious, and constantly outmatched by almost everything with claws. They ate tubers, roots, pulled from the earth with their bare hands, gritty with soil, dense and starchy, and almost impossible to chew. Studies of ancient dental plaque, yes, scientists analyze fossilized dental plaque, have found evidence of grass seeds, sedge plants, and underground storage organs. The kind of low-glamour, high-fiber calories that required an enormous gut to process. They ate raw meat. Sometimes, when they could get it. But here's what we don't say often enough. Getting meat before fire, before coordinated hunting technology, was less lion on the savannah, and more, waiting until something larger was done killing, then sprinting in to grab the scraps before the hyenas arrived, scavenging. That was a significant chapter of our story, a humbling chapter. The dominant creature on Earth today, the species that has reshaped the entire biosphere, once waited, shaking, at the edge of a carcass, hoping the vultures left something worth eating. The digestion problem. But here's where the story gets biologically unsettling. Raw meat is hard to digest. Harder than you think. Raw tubers are extremely hard to digest. The caloric yield from raw food is dramatically lower than from cooked food. Because cooking is, in essence, pre-digestion. Heat breaks down cell walls. It denatures proteins. It makes nutrients available that would otherwise pass straight through you. Without fire, you need a massive digestive system to extract enough calories to survive. And our ancestors had exactly that. Australopithecus, the genus that preceded the Homo lineage, had a gut so large it distorted their posture. Their rib cage flared outward at the bottom to accommodate it. They were barrel-chested, big-bellied, not because they were unhealthy, but because processing raw calories required an enormous internal factory. Now look at us. Our rib cages taper inward. Our guts are relatively small. We are anatomically dependent on cooked food in a way that is almost invisible, until you know what to look for. A human placed on a purely raw food diet, even a modern, carefully planned one, loses significant body weight. Women often stop menstruating. The body begins consuming itself. Multiple studies, including one long-term research project on raw food communities, found that a significant portion of participants could not maintain a healthy weight without cooked calories. We didn't just discover fire. We evolved around it, which means something much stranger is true. Fire didn't change what we ate. Fire changed what we are. The brain explosion. Let's talk about your brain for a moment. The human brain is metabolically insane. It consumes roughly 20% of your total caloric intake despite being only 2% of your body mass. It is the most expensive organ in the animal kingdom, calorie for calorie, gram for gram. Running a brain like this on raw food is almost mathematically impossible. And here's the thing that should stop you cold. The most dramatic expansion in human brain size in the fossil record coincides, with suspicious precision, with the earliest evidence of controlled fire use in cooking. Homo erectus, roughly 1.8 million years ago, shows a significant leap in cranial capacity compared to what came before. The gut shrinks, the brain grows, the jaw weakens, the face flattens. Anthropologist Richard Wrangham has spent decades arguing, controversially, convincingly, that cooking didn't follow human evolution. It drove it, that the unlocking of dense, bioavailable cooked calories is what freed up the biological resources to build the most complex nervous system on the planet. Which means the question, what did humans eat before fire, contains a dark irony buried inside it. Because the humans, the ones who are truly recognizable as us, the big-brained, small-gutted, language-using, society-building kind, may not have existed before fire. The creature that existed before fire was something else. The strange foods. But let's go deeper. Let's get specific, because the devil is in the dietary details. Pre-fire hominins, based on isotope analysis of ancient bones, dental wear patterns, and fossilized fecal material, yes, that exists, ate a diet that would be almost unrecognizable to a modern human. Termites, high in fat, high in protein. Many primate species eat them today, and the evidence suggests early hominins did too. Ants larvae, bee larvae ripped from hives with bleeding hands, bone marrow, accessed not by cooking, but by smashing a stone against a long bone. The same stones we find at ancient archaeological sites, stained with ancient grease, scattered next to the fractured femurs of creatures that died long before us. Marrow is extraordinarily calorie-dense. And it's soft, it doesn't need cooking. You crack the bone and you eat what's inside. Archaeologists believe marrow extraction may be one of the oldest human behaviors we can trace, older than sophisticated tools, older than fire, older than almost anything. We were marrow eaters before we were almost anything else. There's something almost alchemical about that. The earliest humans, crouched over a bone, extracting the richest possible calories from the deepest possible place. It's almost metaphorical, almost. Fruit, when available, berries, but not the sweet, hybridized, sugar-packed fruit of a modern grocery store. Ancient fruit was bitter, small, fibrous, seedy. You worked for every calorie. Your body earned what it got. And water plants, aquatic vegetation. The shores of ancient lakes and rivers in East Africa provided an ecological bounty of wetland plants, rich in starch, accessible year-round, requiring no fire to eat. Some researchers believe this aquatic dietary niche was so central to early hominin evolution that it fundamentally shaped our physiology. The shoreline, as the cradle of the human mind. The psychological layer. Now here's where this stops being about ancient food and starts being about you. There is a concept in evolutionary biology called the mismatch hypothesis. The idea is simple and devastating. Modern humans are running ancient software on a hardware that has barely changed in 200,000 years. We crave sugar because sugar was rare and precious and worth gorging on. We crave fat because fat was dense and rare and worth hoarding. We crave salt because on the open savanna, electrolytes were a survival commodity. Every unhealthy craving you have is not a moral failing. It's a ghost, an echo of an ancestor who lived in a world where that craving kept them alive. The obesity epidemic, the processed food industry, the entire architecture of modern dietary disease. All of it can be traced, in some fundamental way, back to a mismatch between the environment we evolved for and the environment we built. We are still, biologically, the creature that waited for the next tuber. That smashed bones for marrow. That rejoiced at the sight of fruit, because it might be weeks before there was any more. We just wrapped that creature in clothes and gave it access to a 24-hour drive-thru. And the creature doesn't know the difference. What the raw diet tells you is, there's one more layer here. One final implication that almost never gets discussed. For most of human prehistory, the long, dark, prehistoric majority of our existence, food was not pleasurable in the way it is now. Raw food is hard. It's chewy. It's resistant. It takes an enormous amount of effort to extract enough calories to stay alive. Meals were not social events, not celebrations, not comfort rituals. They were work, often desperate work. The pleasure we associate with eating, the warmth, the satisfaction, the social bonding over a shared table, that's not ancient. That's new. That arrived with fire. Cooking didn't just feed our bodies. It fed our social lives. It created the first communal gathering point. A hearth. A flame around which a group could sit in the dark, share food that tasted genuinely good for the first time, and maybe, just maybe, begin talking to each other in the complex way that would eventually become language. The campfire didn't just cook food, it cooked culture. Everything we are. Every story, every song, every religion, every nation, every idea written in every book that has ever existed, can be traced back to a group of ancestors who sat around a fire, eating something warm and soft and nourishing, and started talking. Before fire, we survived alone, or in small, silent groups, grinding away at a raw and hostile world. After fire, we became us. The final reframe. So what did humans eat before fire? The real answer is, not enough. Not enough to grow a brain like yours. Not enough to sustain the kind of metabolic complexity that allows you to feel curious about this question in the first place. The pre-fire creature was not reflective. It was not philosophical. It was not watching YouTube. It was hungry. And somewhere in that hunger, in that grinding, daily, desperate biological negotiation with a raw and indifferent world, something began to stir. Some ancestor, somewhere, saw a flame, maybe lightning, maybe a burning tree, and instead of running like every other animal on the planet, they stayed. And then they reached out. And everything you are was made possible in that moment. You are not just a person who eats cooked food. You are the evolutionary consequence of the first creature that decided fire was something to approach, not flee. The question was never what we ate before fire. The question is, who were we before we were brave enough to reach for it?